Welcome back to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex and today we're going to be taking a look at Loop Hero from the mighty Devolver Digital, an RPG that takes all control out of your hands, and we'll get to that shortly. It might not look like much as well, but this roguelite, there's a lot more than meets the eye, so hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we all do here, join our growing family, and let's get started. The story and the idea here, an enemy known as the Lich has thrown the world into an endless time loop. The place you once called home is now devastated, it's in bad shape and there's just constant chaos. You need to get out there now, uncover the truth and save the day with little memory of what is around you. The game's constantly adding new characters, though enemies, and it slowly starts to reveal its tale, and I was absolutely intrigued thanks to what is some simple but effective writing. So gameplay on where to even begin. This game has so many elements, but I think it's fair to summarise it as part RPG, roguelite, strategy and deck builder. The final spin on things, you don't control the main character walking around this loop. Instead, you take control of their gear, the world around them, and basically how it looks and when to battle or retreat. Sounds confusing? It's not. In fact, you're constantly busy doing something or planning that next step, and I'll tell you right up front, this thing is absolutely addictive. You'll start the game though as a warrior class, but eventually we'll get the ability to unlock 2 additional classes as well. That's rogue and necromancer. While I personally have a favourite class as well, I will say it kind of comes down to playstyle and what you need from your adventurer, so make sure to experiment in the right moment to see what feels right for you. Choose your hero though and send them off to the loop, which is, as it sounds, they walk around what could technically be an endless loop, finding both rewards and adversity. You can pause the game with the tap of the Y button to strategize when you need to. Combat then, as I said, like the movement, it is automatic. The first few passes, simple stuff. The path is occupied by those enemies with low power and you will slay them with relative ease. Pass your home base as well and you'll be fortunate enough to regen a little health as well. Here's the first part of gameplay though, the inventory selection. It starts off simple enough but quickly evolves, choosing weapons, armor, shields, all sorts of goodies as seen in the top right of the screen. That's just above your health bar. More power though here doesn't always mean better. That would be my first tip with the game, because there's other stats you need to account for as well. How about extra damage? Maybe you regen health with each movement, moment to moment. Maybe you gain a better ability around deflecting or evading attacks. Basically you're managing stats, not just power. It's really all about creating the optimal setup while accounting for the foe type you'll be facing. It shouldn't be anything new to someone that's played RPGs, it's just the bit where you lose control that will be so strange. That's where this one gets really interesting though. You control the enemies that appear as well to a certain extent, so you can almost build the world around your character's setup. This inventory though, the cards, the weapons, it all occurs when you slay a foe. They might drop either one when the battle ends. These cards, they appear though across the bottom of the screen. They fall into 5 categories. That's going to be road cards, roadside, landscape, special, and then also golden. Road cards are actually going to be in your path, so think villages, cemeteries, swamps, even greens. They typically spawn enemies or at least attract them thanks to the inclusion of enemy locations that do simply appear around the map from time to time. Roadside then, vampire mansions, spider cocoons, crystals, outposts and more. Special, as the name suggests, has some sort of effect like the ability to remove a previously placed card. Landscapes build the world around you, and then golden, gonna leave that one to you to find out, but these are essentially ultra one-time use only. Now I know all of this sounds a little bit strange, but the idea is they can be both positive and negative. They can also work together and you've got to create kind of this optimal balance. The first thing you really need to do though, you need to decide what this run is for. You've really got 2 types in my eyes, either resource gathering or powering up and going for the boss moment. The more cards you place, you see, the sooner the boss will appear. The game actually works on a day and night cycle, and with each passing day more enemies appear from your cards. Pass through locations though and be rewarded with things like resources. You'll see in my gameplay though 2 types of run, and that is both of these. The joy for me though was really actually in figuring out how all the cards work together, what combinations create a different effect. For example, quickly I learned that placing 9 rocks or mountains in a square creates what is a mountain peak. This is a huge health boost, but it calls in some serious foes. a meadow, and then let's say any other tile connected, that gives +2 HP every time you pass through the start base. Also, a personal vampire home next to a village that will create what is essentially almost this destroyed home, but once you go for 3 loops, it actually becomes a kingdom of sorts with a massive health boost attached. This is where the experimentation comes into play, and it's absolutely addictive. There's got to be 20 plus combos out there to uncover though, and it was a pleasure working it all out. The final piece to gameplay then is of course that home base. With every pass, as I said, you get that health boost, but you also get a few choices. If you land on home, you can actually retreat, keep all your goodies, which comes from like passing through the world or creating card combos. Once you do retreat though, you'll end up at your base. Here you can not only build up the world around you, but invest in our hero as well. Some early examples, the herbalist, which gives you the ability at key points to automatically heal, the option to start with weapons and inventory thanks to a smithy, and then a gym that builds up our character. And this was actually a personal favourite because it introduces what are traits. That's a second meter under your health bar that gives you special abilities that you can add once you do fill it. Think like a full deck of cards that can destroy the landscape entirely. That is great for resource runs, that one. Or perhaps your health drops below 30%, well now it's going to regen quicker. This home base as well, this world, you can even upgrade it as well, so you'll get extra benefit. Of course then here as well, that's where you'll be unlocking the extra classes we mentioned to open the video. Walking into this one though, the idea of playing Dungeon Master almost, it didn't appeal to me all that much honestly. I figured there would be a whole lot of down moments, but that's far from the truth. You are constantly thinking, you're constantly building, and you're constantly, well, basically, you've got to be one step ahead of everybody else. It's, again, I've said this like 10 times this video, it's completely addictive, and yes, it's a roguelite, so you always start for the most part at 0, but the home base gradually improves those starting stats, and this is something special. There's huge reward in here. Complaints wise, very few honestly. Coming in, there's a learning curve, and I would have appreciated a tutorial that was perhaps a little bit more in depth. On the home base, when you hover over tiles, it doesn't tell you what you are looking at, so it can be a bit of a pain clicking in and out to see upgrades available. The card selection, it's not huge honestly. I wish there was a few more, but I also do appreciate it's kind of an idea of master a small selection over something massive. You'll also be selecting the deck going into battle, so this is almost pre-strategy as well, so I can understand why they kept it so limited. Otherwise though, quality stuff, it's incredibly unique, and I can see why it's received such high praise from releases on other platforms. The visuals then, they're not going to be for everyone, let's face it. Extremely old school in its pixel ways, but I really do appreciate it. The map is simplistic, shifting your focus to everything on the user interface. And that's important because, the character's doing its own thing. You need to worry about everything else. I also like the character animations in battle. There's nothing special there, but there's a whole lot of charm still. Likewise, the character models that pop up on screen for dialogue moments, they are fantastic as well. Unfortunately though, here I will say no real sizing options, so in handheld at points, even with sharp text, it was a little more challenging, but I will say at least it has a few options in the menu to highlight your path and hero placements. The only other issue with visuals, once you really fill up a map, it can be a little overwhelming given the purposely designed low detail. Likewise, the resources needed to upgrade, there's no descriptions, so it took me a little while to kind of figure out how I was able to get them. Audio finally, it matches the visual style with a retro-infused soundtrack, and I loved it. From old school almost bleeps to music that captures the epic of the scenario, yet, feels comfortable in its love for all things old school. There's no voice acting or anything else, relatively minimalistic, but giving the music kind of the spotlight here, it was a wise choice given how good it is. It's a game that pushes back against everything you typically do in a game and asks you to do the opposite. Simply manage the hero and the world around them, and I gotta be honest, that doesn't sound all that fun. The thing is, I've said this like 10 times now, it's addictive, it's incredibly rewarding, and it was exciting playing something that felt completely new. It has a few issues as well, sure, a lack of explanation, even direction, but for some that will no doubt be the pull, and I understand it, even if I think there was maybe just a little bit more it could do. I'm excited to see though where they go next now. This is a huge adventure with some great challenge ahead, but I can only imagine how good it would be if they expand upon it, add more cards, add more classes, and so on. Souls though eventually got its own tag, which took the gaming world by storm with Souls-likes. I wouldn't be surprised if Loop Hero does that very same thing. An amazing 9 out of 10 from me today. It's one of the best games I've personally played this far in 2021. For sheer creativity, challenge and reward, Loop Hero should absolutely be your next stop. With that then, like a shout out to the patrons of the channel who are going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we will do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.